I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Welcome to Women Awakening. I'm Cynthia James. I'm your host, and I'm extraordinarily proud to introduce you to women that are inspirational, that are change makers, that are powerful, and that have found their way to their passion. And so what I want you to know is that they're not exceptions. They are absolute models for us to understand who we are and who we can be by simply saying yes to our calling. So we are here every week. You can find us on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeart, iTunes, YouTube, Amazon. Sign up, come back, and meet these extraordinary women who really are here for us. I think that community is extraordinarily important. And that's how we step into the greatness and the power that we've come here to be, because this is the time of women emerging. I'm very clear about it. So I would like you to meet Dr. Carolyn Delucia. She's a doctor. She's a pioneer at the leading edge of non-invasive sexual wellness treatments. She's a practicing OB/GYN for nearly 30 years, an alternative therapy expert since 2014. She's sought after by device manufacturers and professional groups alike. She's one of the most in-demand specialists in her field, and she's trained thousands of practitioners around the world and impacted the lives of countless patients. I just heard her be very loving and kind with the patient who was needing her. It was quite inspiration to think, oh, that's the kind of doctor I want, right? She has a private practice, and she also has knowledge as an expert in the applications of cutting edge treatments, and she's developed her own combination therapies and techniques that she now offers in New York City and suburban New Jersey patients. So, Carolyn, welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I already feel such a wonderful connection with you and your mission. And I would like to tell you that my eldest daughter's name is Cynthia, and she is always Cynthia. So
that's great. Yeah, when I was a kid, there was Cindy. When I grew up, I was like, I'm not a Cindy, I'm a Cynthia. So wonderful. Yes. So I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm really interested in what you do. And so first of all, just tell me a little bit about your background. Where were you born? Was it a big family?
Certainly. It's a huge Italian family. I have 4 siblings, and my family is actually unique in the way that I have 18 cousins just on my mother's side, and we are all crazy overachievers. And so it was ingrained in me as a child to never quit and push forward and try to make a difference. And so my siblings are all attorneys, and they call me the black sheep of the family. I simply say I broke the mold, but they just, see it their way. But I was raised in this big, giant Italian family, and blessed by my father's own ambition, we got transferred to Italy when I was 8 years old. And I had my most fundamental years, 8 till 14. I lived in Rome, Italy. And yeah,
one of my favorite places. I love Italy.
Yeah, you eat so well. It's just, it spoils you for life as far as taste buds. So, and then I came back to the United States knowing that I wanted to be a physician, and just plowed right through and decided to become an OB/GYN when I was in medical school testing different specialties. And what I discovered was that the gynecological practice, we can always fix things. We can fix them hormonally by tweaking this hormone or changing that, or if worse comes to worse and it's something that requires surgery, we can operate and fix it that way. And that's very rewarding to me as a person, to be able to have some satisfaction that I've actually helped make a difference.
Mhm.
But as life went on, the demands of the practice were overwhelming and affecting my family and my children. And I needed to make a change, so I stopped obstetrics. And
Oh.
mhm,
And
yeah.
and so the private practice came in support of you being more available to family and yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what happened? My eldest daughter was 10 years old. And I was much more of a midwife than the doctor coming in just to catch the baby. If my woman was in labor, I was there. I had to be. I felt like I wanted to be. So I lived at the hospital for the first 10 years of her life. And one Friday, she had a piano recital. And she said, "Mommy, are you going to be there?" And I said, "Of course I'm going to be there. I have coverage coming in at 5 o'clock. I can make it to the rehearsal. I'll make it to the recital." And she said, "Mom, if you're not in that audience, I'm not getting on stage." And I said, "Of course I'm going to be there." Well, 4:30 came along, and I had a woman who was having her second baby, and it's usually easier. And she was 8 centimeters. You only got to be 10 to push. And I took out my superwoman cape and I said, "I can deliver this baby and I can make it to the recital." And I made the delivery, but missed her time by 5 minutes.
Oh.
She did not get on stage.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Quite the turning point. And I said, "You know what? I chose the patient over my own child, and it's not going to stop. I have to make a change so that I make my children a priority and stop giving me that much of a temptation to make them a secondary aspect." So I quit obstetrics and started gynecology alone.
Wow. Well, it's such a beautiful story, and it's so, it's such an interesting path that women walk, because you
Yes.
have this passion, you have this calling, you have this deep desire to be in service, and then you have family and the priorities there. And it's like, so how do you balance it? And so
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about is really making a choice in that moment that was going to serve both.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And how incredible that you raised a daughter that was really clear about standing for herself.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, she's a pediatric intensive care physician today. And I'm rather proud of her. And she's a very strong, independent woman. And she has said to me, "Mommy, honestly, when I look back, you were there for almost everything.
Oh,
And you did it all. So can I."
oh, that is so beautiful. Well, I want to talk about what are sexual wellness treatments?
Mm-hmm. So wonderful. And I'm so glad you asked, because women need to know. Stop suffering. I know each one of us is suffering from something, whether it's bad bad periods, leaking urine, having vaginal dryness, discomfort with intercourse, hot flashes, night sweats, just the whole aspect of what we experience. And it affects our intimacy and our confidence. And each one of these issues can be treated, and
Mm.
they can be treated traditionally as well as alternatively, as well as with functional medicine. Now, devices called functional gynecology, which is the field that's been growing that I really partake in and been teaching.
And so you have taken the medical knowledge and then found out what are the medical devices or things that can take it to another level to support women's wholeness where their sexuality is concerned.
That's correct. So there are lasers that can take a relaxed vagina. So before we have a baby, the vagina is kind of a cylinder. After the baby, it's kind of a square. We have the walls fall in from both sides, and that's laxity, and that's from overstretching. The front wall is our bladder, which weakens, and we leak urine with a cough, a sneeze, glass of wine, laughing with our girlfriends, jumping on the trampoline. Or the back wall is the rectum, and that can bulge into the vagina. So that change in the anatomy causes all kinds of changes in the way we feel when we have intimacy, and also with leaking of urine, which is really impactful. Did you know 45% of women who leak won't have sex?
No. 45%?
Yes, that's almost half of the women who have urinary incontinence, which is over 40%, over 50, won't be intimate for fear of leaking on their partner.
Wow. Well, no, I didn't know that. And that makes sense to me. But thank goodness there's a you. There's someone that can say this does not have to stop you from having a pleasurable life sexually.
That's right. Yes. And it's not me, it's the technology that's been developed, thank the Lord. And there are lasers that can treat that. There's this fabulous chair you sit on fully clothed that can Kegel for you 11,000 times in 28 minutes, rebuilding your pelvic floor musculature so you don't leak. It's the only non-invasive FDA approved device on the market for urinary incontinence in both men and women, and people don't know it exists.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, but what I want to know is, are you a rarity? I mean, that you have these devices and you have this knowledge? Because I've not heard this before.
Yes. I am a rarity, but I'm not a scarcity. So there's quite a number of us. There are about 1,000 doctors, I would say, in the United States really practicing this type of work there, and it's growing each and every day. I work feverishly trying to get the word out, and I will help women anywhere find someone in their own backyard. And most of the physicians that I will connect anybody with are right at fully certified and not just winging it. Some, unfortunately, some of these devices do get into the hands of estheticians. Perhaps you want to make sure you're going to a certified physician is the bottom line with anything intimate. Don't get over desperate and go to the wrong person. So I'm happy to guide anybody, and we'll give you contact information. So it'll be helpful. But I think that the devices are getting more and more accessible. They, unfortunately, some of the procedures are a little costly because they're not covered by insurance.
Right.
And one of my missions is to make them more accessible to the general public. One thing I do in my practice, and I'm sure other physicians do as well, is offer no interest financing for over a year. I do layaway where people can pay monthly until they reach the cost. I mean, it's not horrendous, but it's not in everybody's dispensable income. So. Yeah. And unfortunately, the devices are so expensive.
And so if I were a novice and I was having this problem and I wanted to do research, what would I look for?
You can start by Googling the condition. For example, urinary incontinence solutions. You can Google uncomfortable sex or painful sex and see what comes up on Google or Bing or whatever you want to use. And then you can also read my little book. I give it away for free. I will give you my link. It's www.ultimateintimacy.net. I wrote a quick read. It's about 60 to 100 pages, depending on Kindle or print. And it's a very easy book written to understand the conditions and the technologies that are available.
Yeah. Well, that's really beautiful. And we will definitely put that link in our video. But I and also, it'll go out and, everybody will hear it. But I want to talk about, what's going on with women today in terms of owning their power sexually and being healthy and being an advocate for themselves, for their health.
Yes, I think that it's the time. It's now our time as women to be open and come forward asking our questions. There's no shame. Everybody loves sex. Everybody has sex. And there's no reason to be ashamed of it. Intimacy is the most natural part of being human that exists. I think COVID really brought that out with the need for a simple hug with isolation. And I got an email yesterday from Netflix, and they were advertising what's coming up and what's new. Do you know what's new? Goop has a whole TV series starting in October, I think of the 21st or so, and it's about sexual function in women.
Oh my gosh.
So this is our time. It's now. We can't keep silent anymore. We have a right to be willing and active participants in our intimacy without shame.
Well, I love that. And I do work with women on emotional integration. A lot of them have been abused or traumatized as children, and trying to find their way back to their center, their natural state of being in terms of their sexuality can be quite a journey. So I love that you're saying this. B, I love that you're a physician that is saying this, and that women have opportunities and options to step into their fullness so that they enjoy their sexuality and own it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I fault the doctors as well. I will say that the majority of traditional OBGYNs, which I really am at heart, never brought up intimacy because they don't think there are solutions. Even the physicians are unaware. These are not widely available devices and procedures quite yet. We're getting there and we're getting the word out, but there's resistance. And here's the issue, Cynthia. The problem with the gynecologist is that the devices that we're using, lasers, radio frequency, regenerative procedures such as platelet-rich plasma, the O-shot, vampire procedures. Platelet-rich plasma is the portion of our own blood that helps us heal ourselves. These types of procedures are foreign to gynecologists. They don't understand them. They come from the cosmetic world, the aesthetic world. They come from the plastic surgery world. So for gynecologists to feel comfortable using these devices, they have to lose a little bit of their fear. And mind you, gynecologists and obstetricians in the United States are the most commonly sued doctors in our country. They live in fear of being sued. So they are a little bit closed-minded. This is where I'm safe. This is what I know. And they stay in that lane to be safe. to feel safe.
So why are they sued so often?
I don't know. I think that the way it all started with the increased lawsuits in OBGYN back in probably the 70s to the 90s was, I think, the expectation of perfection, and people were suing for babies that had rough births, or God forbid, cerebral palsy, or God forbid, death, or other traumatic birth injuries. So they were getting great settlements from the lawyers, and that encouraged people to find fault when perhaps just sometimes things just happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There
And
are always faults. I'm not
yeah.
saying doctors are perfect by any means, but there a lot of times it's just a bad outcome, not a malpractice suit.
Right. So it's so interesting. So you've got the patient who's afraid and concerned and having
Yes,
not a great experience, and the doctor who's having been sued or knows other people who've been sued. So you've got both
yes,
sides kind of wobbling in this fear place. Meanwhile, the ways to heal and transform, are not as quick as they could be because people are wandering in that space.
that's right. And it's not as widely available or recognized. So that's why we're here. And I thank you for giving us this platform.
Well, I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful that you're doing what you're doing. How do people find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, which is www.drcarolyndelucia.com. And that's DR, not the word doctor. So drcarolyndelucia.com. And I'm on Instagram as the same, Dr. Carolyn Delucia. And you can DM me there. You could also write me an email at viva, VIVAGYN @yahoo.com.
Beautiful. Well, I'm just really grateful that you're doing what you're doing, and that, to know that there are 1,000 other doctors out there in this moment that are walking the same plane is just a gift to all of us, and I'm over 50, and we're not told how to age sexually.
That's right.
We're not told. And so to have a conscious doctor that you can go to and have a conversation is a lovely thing. I asked the same last question of every guest, and that this show is called Women Awakening. What is the one thing you want women to know about the importance of their awakening?
Well, of course, from my point of view, is to always be true to yourself and be confident and clear on your needs. That's the most important aspect in any area of our lives. Just communicate honestly. Don't fear what someone else is thinking, and awaken to your own best self.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Carolyn Delucia, I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that you're on the planet. I'm so grateful that you're doing what you're doing. And thank you so much for being a guest.
Back at you, Cynthia. Thank you so very much.
So, ladies, I want you to know this is just an extraordinary example of what women are doing on the planet, bringing new ways of thinking, stepping outside of the box, inviting women to take ownership of who they've come here to be. You are an extraordinary gift. You're unrepeatable. And so whatever it is within you that wants to be birthed, wants to come forward, wants to be created, say yes. And the universe will sync up with you. I promise. Thank you so much for being here. Come back every week and meet somebody new and amazing. I'll see you then.